Persona 3 Reload is not just one of the most anticipated games of the year, it's one of the most anticipated remakes of all time, and everyone cannot wait to get their hands on it. There is not a day that goes by where I'm not listening to "It's Going Down Now," cleanest clean version that ever cleaned, at least 6 times back to back. Traditionally, you need PlayStation hardware if you want to play the latest Persona game, or if you want to play any Persona game. However, this is no longer the case, as not only is the game coming to PlayStation 4 and 5, but it's also coming to PC and Xbox. The dream of having Persona on all platforms has finally come to pass. This is the result of Break Free Persona, where fans continuously demanded a Steam and Switch port of Persona 5. Sega and Atlus have listened. They have ported P3, P4, and P5 to all modern hardware. But this is where things get confusing. Currently, there's no announcement for Persona 3 Reload on Switch. While Persona games are absolutely gorgeous to look at, they're nowhere near as demanding as something like a God of War. So it's left a lot of people wondering, why is there no Switch port for Persona 3 Reload? Recently, Spanish publication Atomics sat down with Takuya Yamaguchi and asked him about the possibility of a Switch port, with him saying, quote, "Since we began conceptualizing everything that would come in Persona 3 Reload, we decided there would be no version for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, the idea is there, but it's a matter of discussing it with the team and seeing what they think about it, and we'll see what happens." Now, Persona 3 Reload runs on Unreal Engine 4, a very scalable engine that has been proven to work with Nintendo Switch quite well in the past. The engine is scalable, and I don't think the assets would require a tremendous amount of reworking to get them running on the hardware. That being said, it's always easy to backseat dev, saying that things don't look that complex and assuming that they would run because it seems like they should doesn't really account for how the game is actually engineered and everything that's going on under the hood. So while yes, theoretically, if a version of The Witcher 3 can run on the Nintendo Switch, yes, you would imagine that Persona 3 Reload would be able to run, and the Japanese audience would definitely eat up a Switch port of this game. After all, the Switch has sold over 30 million units in Japan. That's more than PS4, PS5, and Xbox has sold in Japan combined. Being on the platform, especially as a JRPG, arguably the most popular RPG in Japan aside from Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Pokemon. However, that doesn't mean that you won't be playing it on Switch, just not the Switch that you currently own. Notable Atlus leaker Midori has commented on the matter. For those of you who are not familiar with her, she has an almost 100% track record. She's also the one who leaked Persona 3 Reload ahead of time, as well as numerous other Persona projects. However, despite her almost flawless record, I am still going to say this anyway. This is a rumor for the Persona franchise, as well as a rumor for Nintendo's next generation console. All rumors should be taken with a grain of salt until officially confirmed by their respective companies. And if it's not official news, you should assume that it's a lie. Don't go telling everyone that you got it from Night Sky Prince, because you didn't. Unless it comes true, then you totally got it from me. And tell them to hit that subscribe button too. In response to a tweet talking about the lack of a Switch version, Midori clarified saying, "It's because P3R will be on the next Nintendo hardware, and Metaphor too. So it seems like they're saving Persona 3 Reload for Switch 2? Let's make some sense of this. The game was built with PS4 as the lowest common denominator in mind, meaning that, again, even though the game looks like it should be able to run on Switch, it was still engineered with 8GB of RAM in mind. The Nintendo Switch has half that amount of RAM at 4GB. While it's maybe possible for them to be able to get that memory usage down and to eventually be able to run on the Switch, it would still take time and money for them to do that. However, Switch 2 will definitely have 8GB or more of RAM, making that port much easier to do than the one for the initial Switch. However, the current Switch unit also has 140 million units sold, and I really can't help but think that they are probably missing out by not bringing this game to the current existing Switch. That is a lot of units, and I know a ton of people who would primarily play this game on the Switch. This is a portable game. In fact, I'm probably getting the Steam version specifically so that I can play it on my Steam Deck. This will allow me to have a high quality 4K version whenever I'm playing on my PC, and it would allow me to have the bite-sized portable beautiful experience that I would also love to have with Persona. Really, if you want the best of both worlds with this game, the best platform to get it on probably is going to be Steam. At least that is if you own a Steam Deck. It's also really interesting to note that Atlus's other major game, Metaphor, is slated to be coming to Switch 2 according to Midori. Metaphor is currently listed for all platforms as well, save for Switch. And again, it just seems like it would be such a waste to not put that game on Switch. It seems like that one is definitely coming to Switch 2. Now visually, that game does seem a little bit more ambitious than what Persona 3 Reload is, as there appear to be some much bigger environments, with enemies dynamically roaming across them. So for that game, I think it goes without saying why it's going to be running on the next generation Switch. I mean, after all, look at SMT5. I would absolutely love for that game to get a PC or PS5 port. It's an absolutely beautiful game, but my god, on the Switch, the frame rate and the resolution are not the best. Many times where the game just looks so blurry, and you can tell under that layer of Vaseline, it's an absolutely gorgeous game. As far as the Switch 2 hardware goes, there's a lot of interesting rumors surrounding it. Eurogamer reported that at Gamescom, Nintendo was privately demoing the Switch 2, playing a souped up version of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and this demo was said to be running at 4K 60 frames per second, with the Switch 2 supporting NVIDIA DLSS upscaling technology. The Matrix Unreal Engine 5 demo was also running on the targeted specs for the next generation Switch hardware. There's also rumors that a port of Final Fantasy VII Remake is in the works for this hardware, and it was said that this version of Final Fantasy VII Remake looks a little bit closer to the Intergrade version of FF7R than it looks to the initial PS4 release. That's good to hear because the initial PS4 release of FF7R had some pretty rough technical issues, in particular with textures either not loading or loading in at an incredibly low resolution. So much so that when I was playing the game at release on PS4, I thought for sure there was going to be a massive day one patch. But as it turns out, that's just how the PS4 version of that game actually just is. A Nintendo Switch version would also tremendously benefit Final Fantasy VII Remake, as just like Persona, it has the same issue, where the Nintendo Switch is huge in Japan. However, PlayStation is way bigger in the West, and in order to appeal to both audiences, you need to have a version of the game that can be played on PlayStation and a version that can be played on Switch. This is always difficult to do because you kind of have to hold back the PlayStation version in order to develop it for the Switch, and this can be pretty upsetting to do. However, with the rumors of the Nintendo Switch 2 being much more powerful, supporting technology like DLSS, it's entirely possible that maybe Switch ports can become a more frequent thing. Of course, there's also rumors that it's about as powerful as a PS4, but honestly, most PS5 games are still PS4 games that have just been upscaled and run better. I mean, as beautiful as Horizon Forbidden West looks, you have to also remember that that game runs on PS4 and looks almost as good. But let me know if you'll be double dipping on Persona 3 Reload if it comes to Switch 2. Shout out to patron Jonathan Wedge and the rest of the Ultima community.